Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to safetystudygroup.com, Safety Study Group's YouTube channel, dunyadna.com, and Durus Dunyadna's YouTube channel. Today we'll be talking about the JSA, Job Safety Analysis, JHA, Job Hazard Analysis, whatever you call it, or Activity Hazard Analysis, AHA. Different companies call it different names. But today we will be talking about the form itself, the actual form of JSA. What is it? How do we do it? And other points. Before everything, you need to know that a job safety analysis is not something you do just to do the job. The job safety analysis has to be done to determine whether or not you can do the job. For example, once you analyze the steps, as we will in a few minutes, if you think that further controls are required, you have to stop the operation until the controls are in place. Then you can continue and do the job. A risk assessment might also be needed, but we'll be talking about this in the next few minutes. Okay, before everything, what is a job safety analysis? A job safety analysis is a breakdown of the job steps in order to show exactly, number one, what the job step is, number two, what hazards are involved with this step, number three, what are the risks of these hazards, and number four, what is the control for this for this risk. Okay, for example, if we have a lifting job, let's talk about lifting. If we have a lifting job, what are the steps of lifting? Yeah, we just bring the crane, we put it here, we move this and put it. No, it's not that simple. You have to be systematic. You have to be analytical in your approach, and you have to analyze everything, especially in this one. This is a job safety analysis. You have to analyze every step. So I've made one JSA for lifting. I will leave a link in the description. You can download it if you want. The JSA for lifting, I've broken it down into so many parts so you can visualize every step. Okay, the first thing, what do we have to do? We need to lift this from here to here. Okay, how do we go about? How do we start? Number one, before everything, you need to apply for a job permit before you do the job. Okay, the permit to work, you can get it from the company. Okay, you got that. The risk assessment, sometimes they will require it, sometimes they will not. It depends on the company. A risk assessment hopefully will be covered in a future video, and depending on when you're watching this video, maybe I've already made a video, just browse through my channel. A lifting plan is also required. Do you have a lifting plan? No. You have to make one. I can't. Do you know how to make it? No. You have to learn. Also browse through my channel. Maybe you have, maybe you'll see a video on lifting plans. Excuse me. Another thing you need is what we're talking about now is a JSA or JHA or AHA or whatever you are talking about. This is going to be required. Now, this is the job step. Okay, imagine a JSA form. The first column is going to tell you what is the job step. The second one is telling you, or rather you're watching it from here. So this is the job step, this is the hazard, this is the risk, and this is the control. Okay, so what is the first step? Apply for the permit. If I don't apply for the permit, what's going to happen? Maybe other people are working there, they don't know you will be there. Okay, what will happen if nobody knows I'm working there? Maybe, SIMOPs, simultaneous operations, maybe their job will interfere with mine, or mine will be interfering with theirs. What is the risk? Maybe you have collision of vehicles, maybe loads will be hitting one another, and so on. What is the control? Proper planning, application for permit to work. Make sure you have all the paperwork you need. Especially, you need to have certification for the equipment, certification for the material, and certification for the operator. Okay, 4 things you need to keep in mind when you're doing the job safety analysis. This was covered in a previous video. It's called Unsafe Acts and Unsafe Conditions. Material, equipment, environment, and people. These should always be involved and should always be included in any job safety analysis you make, in any risk assessment you make, in any job hazard analysis you make. Okay. The second step of the permit or the JSA, what is it? First, you have to fill out the pre-use inspection checklist for the crane. Now, this is the step. What is the hazard if I don't do this? Maybe there is a leak, maybe there's something broken, I don't see it. Okay, what is the hazard of this? What is the risk of this hazard? The risk, you can have a crane tip over, you can drop the load, you can hurt somebody, you can, maybe you are driving, you're not even lifting it, maybe you're driving and you have problems with the brakes, and you end up killing somebody. Why? Because the brakes are not working. You can roll downhill or backwards and kill everybody that is behind you or in front of you. Okay, how do I do this? How do I prevent this? You prevent it by doing your pre-use inspection. Okay, next, what do we do after that? First, we travel to the location of the lifting. Okay, when we go there, we follow the safe. Okay, this is the step. Okay, travel from here to the location of the lift. What is the hazard? It means on the way while we're traveling. What is the hazard? The hazard is maybe you have material of the workplace in the road. Maybe you have other equipment. Maybe you have bad weather. Maybe the condition of the road is bad for you. You see, I'm including material, equipment, environment, and people. Maybe you have pedestrians on the road. Maybe you have other drivers on in the way. You need to be careful of all these things, as these are the hazards. Okay, what is the risk of these hazards? The material can be explosive, flammable, chemical, or anything. So I need to be careful not to hit them. The environment, it can be rainy, it can be foggy, it can be fire, smoky, snowy, whatever. These hazards can cause the crane to go off the road and hit other people or other buildings or other equipment. So you need to be careful in all these things. The people is also another hazard, because they are bad drivers, maybe they are sick, maybe they're drunk, maybe they're under the influence, and so on. What is the risk of that? They can hit me with their cars, or I hit them with their cars, and so on. You have to be analytical in your approach. You have to be systematic and break it down into small pieces, small chunks, when you are doing the assessment of or the analysis of lifting. Okay, how do I control all these things? Follow the speed limit. Always have on my lights, so my vehicle or my plant is visible to other drivers from a safe distance. I don't turn on the radio, I don't turn on anything. I take off my headphones if I'm wearing any. Why? Because I need to be aware, I need to be safe, I need to be fit to work. I need to have had enough rest while I am driving. Okay, all these things, we haven't even reached the location of the lift. Okay, the next one is choosing the place or choosing a safe spot to do the lift. Okay, this is the step, choosing the proper place for lifting. What is the hazard? The hazard, when you're choosing the location, the hazards are so many. Again, like I said, material, equipment, environment, people, you have to include these. I don't want to repeat them, but you have to include them in all of your steps. Here, you have to involve other things, for example, surrounding buildings, underground utilities, overhead power lines, overhead cables, overhead, maybe you have other equipment also working, maybe you have tower cranes, maybe you have other cranes working. All of these things are hazards. Okay, what is the risk of this hazard? I can hit another building, killing somebody. Another crane can hit me, or I can hit another crane. I can drop my load, or somebody else can drop their load on my crane or on me. or on the people in that area. All these things have to be included. So how do I prevent this from happening? Choose the proper place, away from any excavations or any edges of mountains or hills. Make sure that the ground is even as much as possible. Now, we chose the location. What is next? Now we have to extend the outriggers. We open the legs, the outriggers. I'll put a photo. We extend the outriggers of the crane, and before we position them, we have to put the pads underneath them. Okay. What's the hazard if I don't do this? The hazard, the crane will be unstable if I don't use the outriggers. Maybe the crane, while I'm lifting the lift or the load, will roll if it's only on tires. Okay, that's logical. Okay, what will happen if this happens? If it rolls? Well, I can hit somebody, I can kill somebody, and the crane can go into, let's say, for example, if I'm doing it in a processing facility, if the crane is downhill and it goes with the load, it travels and it goes into a silo or a tank or something, or if there are chemicals, I can have an explosion, hurt a lot of people in the local community as well, all because I didn't do one thing right. I didn't use the outriggers. So choose the proper place, open the outriggers, and make sure that you have the pads underneath the outriggers. Place the outriggers on the pads, you're good. Okay, what's next? Now we have to open the boom and make sure that, of course, when you chose the location, in relation to the load, it has to be as close as possible, because the boom has to stay vertical as much as possible, because the strength or the load will be on the boom while it's in vertical position. The more it goes horizontal, the load, the less the boom can handle. So now we've chose the location, we opened it, we try to extend the boom. What are the hazards here? Okay, the hazards here, hydraulic failure, for example. But if we did the inspection, now we know it's good. Hydraulic failure, other buildings, other cranes, power cables, all these things you have to keep in mind. Okay, if I don't do this, I can hit cables, I can get electrocuted, the crane can be hurt, and so on. Okay, what's next? The next step is to lower the block and try to rig the load. Now, there are many hazards in this operation. It depends on the load itself. The load itself, what is it? Is it in a good shape? Like, for example, is it a container, or is it many things all on top of each other, and I try to find a way to rig and sling them? If it's a container, let's talk about something that is a proper load. If it's a container, which requires me to go up on top to rig it, is different than another thing. But let's talk about this one. Before I work at height, I need to have received working at height training. I need to have received working at height training. I need to know how to use my PPE. Okay, but if we're doing a risk assessment for working at height, the number one thing we have to do is eliminate the need to work at height. But that's not possible, because we have to lift it and go. So now the first step is rigging. Okay, what are we going to use? We're going to use webbing slings. Okay, webbing slings. What is the load weight? It's 20 tons. Okay, what is the capacity of this webbing sling? Each webbing sling is 5 tons, so we will use 4. That's 20, and this is also 20. We're safe. No, we're not safe. We are not safe. You cannot use the same capacity of the webbing slings on the same load, which is equal to all load. You need to have, I'm not gonna say exactly how many tons, the difference between this one and that, because that information is not really clear to me. But we need to have enough slings with enough capacity to be able to lift this load. For example, let's say if this load is 5 tons, or let's say if it's 10 tons, and we have 4 webbing slings, each webbing sling is 8 tons. Okay, this is a safe lift. It's good. But how do we know how many tons is this webbing sling? How do we know what the safe working limit or safe working load is? Now, a lot of people will say, oh yeah, it's very simple. You can locate it by looking at the threads. You can look at the sewing on the, I'll put a picture so you know what I'm talking about. You can look at this, and each black line indicates 1 ton. Okay, while that might be true or not true, don't follow this. Each webbing sling, it has in the eye, it has a certificate, as you will see now. It has a certificate on it. It says the color of the sling, how many inches wide it is, and how many millimeter thick it is, how long it is, and how many tons it can hold if it's used in a straight line, or in a choker, or in a basket method. So this certificate will tell you exactly how many tons it can use. It can lift. But what do I do if I don't see the certificate on this webbing sling? Don't use it. Stop. Don't use it. You can do the job with another webbing sling that has a certificate. Because if you choose to use this, now this webbing sling is in an unsafe condition. You don't know how many tons it is. Don't tell me threads and how many, don't. Certificate. How many tons? I don't know. Why? Because I can't see it. Okay, this is in an unsafe condition. If you choose to use it, it's an unsafe act, which goes back to you. So, don't use it. Now, the webbing sling is good. The other one is good. Okay, make proper inspection. Why do I have to do proper inspection? Because if I don't do proper inspection, it can very easily slip up or come out of the eye of the hook, and it can, for example, tear. It can cut. It can maybe it has frayed parts in it. If I don't inspect it before I do the lifting job, it can hurt the job. It can hurt the equipment. It can hurt the material. It can hurt me. So I do the proper inspection. Proper inspection is the control. The risk is the load falling, and the hazard, of course, is defective equipment. The lifting points of the load must also be inspected. You need to know that the lifting point is good. The shackles must be inspected. You need to make sure that the bolts, the safety pin are all in place. Okay, again, defective equipment is the hazard. The risk is falling of the load, or dropped objects, or dropped loads. The control is proper inspection of the slings, proper inspection of the lifting point, and the shackles with the pins and bolts. They also have to confirm with the current color code of that particular company, and you need to have certificate for all of these inspections from a verified and trusted third party that says, yes, this container is in a proper shape and it can be lifted safely. This shackle can be used. This webbing sling can be used. If you don't have these certificates, don't do the lifting job. Why? Because it's unsafe. Okay, rigging the load. We're still here. I'm going to do the rigging, but I don't have training. Stop the job. Stop the job. You need to have somebody that can do it safely, because if you have received the training, you will know what to look for, and you know exactly how to stop a hazard. Because hazard identification is very, very important. If you don't know what you're looking for, you're just looking, but you're not seeing. There's a difference between looking and seeing. So when you look, you must be able to see. Okay, what's next? Now let's say I have working at height training, and I have rigging and slinging training. I've been doing it for a few months or a year. So bottom line, I'm good. I can do the rigging. What are the hazards while I'm rigging? Okay, slips, trips, and falls. This always has to be included, along with material, equipment, environment, and people. Slips, trips, and falls, it always has to be included. Manual handling techniques, they have to be included. Working at height, I have the training. I have received it, so I know how to position my ladder. I know how to go up. I know how to use my fall protection PPE. I have my inertia reel or fall arrestor. When I am using it, I need to make sure that I'm not getting tangled up. My foot is not staying in the way. All these things have to be included before, included in your training before you actually go and do the job. Okay, now while I'm rigging, while I'm connecting the load to the sling or to the shackle, what is the hazard here? Maybe the crane is too far in, the block is too far, and I'm trying to pull it down. And why are you pulling down? Just give a signal to the crane operator to lower it and bring it to a safe location for you. This way you don't use your muscles to try to battle metal, because if you try to battle metal, you're going to lose. So use communication. It's in a proper position now. Try to close the shackle up, close the bolt and put the safety pin. The hazards here, strained muscles, manual handling, incorrect manual handling techniques, improper position of your body, so improper posture, maybe ergonomics, maybe line of fire. It depends on how you're doing the rigging. Maybe the environment is very cloudy. Maybe it's foggy. In this case, if it's foggy, you have to stop the job because you cannot do that. If the wind is too far, it's too fast, don't do the lift. Okay, so let's say it's a cool day. Okay, so the environment is not that big of a factor. But again, you can have a bird come fly to your face. You never know, right? So all these things have to be included. Now, I go up, connect to the fall arrestor. I do this, connect it. Okay, good. What's the hazard? I can fall, you slip, trip, fall, environment, and so on. And the risk, like I said, I can fall, hurt myself. And the control is receive proper training, yada, 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 just like we talked a few minutes ago. Now, when I go down, I will do it safely as well. Disconnect one hook, connect it to the ladder, and then disconnect the other one, connect it to myself or to the ladder. 100% tie off all the time. It's good. Now I am down. The crane operator must now lift the load from point A to point B. Okay, this is the step. What is the hazard? The hazard is blind spots. The crane operator cannot see everything. Blind spots, miscommunication. Maybe you are using radios for communication and the battery ran out. Okay, and maybe you're using one banksman for the operator to give signals, and this person doesn't know how to give proper signals, or maybe he knows how to give proper signals, and these signals are good in his country, and this other operator is also good in signals, but he knows other signals that are in that are good in his previous company or in his country. It's important that everybody knows the same system. Everybody follows the same system once you're working in the same company. That's why training is important. Okay, so maybe I go like this. It means something to me, and to him maybe it means something else. Or if I go like this, maybe it means something, and to him it means something else. Okay, so while lifting, like I said, blind spot, miscommunication. We're not going to say overloading the crane, because we've already verified the load and we know everything is good. The angle, the radius, the load chart, everything is good. So, but there's always this risk if you're using the improper webbing slings or chain slings that don't hold, or they're not strong enough to hold this weight. Maybe you'll have a crane tip over, or maybe the load will drop and end up killing somebody. If the angle is too far, you'll have a crane tip over. Okay, so we covered all of this, and choose the correct place is exactly why we spent so much time talking about it. Okay, so lift while it's traveling, blind spots, miscommunication, and you can end up hitting somebody. Material, equipment, environment, people, like I said, maybe you hit a wall, maybe you hit other environment, other material that are in nearby structures. You can hit other buildings, and maybe people that are working at height, maybe you can hit them as well. Okay, now you have reached the destination, you put the load, not in a hurry. Of course, one point I forgot to mention is the use of taglines. Taglines must also be used to guide the load and to prevent it from swinging. And if you swing the load while it's in the air, it can have a very, very bad effect on the crane, as the load will be heavier, and maybe it will lose its balance and end up falling. So now the load is in the air. We place it nicely, easily. We place it correctly. It's good. Now to go and unhook it, or remove the slings and shackles from the load. Same steps that we use for the rigging, we use for the unrigging. So we go unplug it and unrig it. Be careful, the fall arrestor, I don't fall, slip, trip, fall, and so on. And the load is done correctly. Now we're done with this load, finished. What's going to happen now for the crane operator? Again, now he's going to retract his boom. Again, the same steps the same hazards that are involved in the extension of the boom or opening the boom, they will be followed in the retraction of the boom. And the same steps when he opened the outriggers will be followed when he collapses the outriggers, and when he travels back to the parking lot, let's say, the same steps will be followed when he traveled to the location. I hope this video wasn't too long, and hopefully you learned something new. Tell me in the comments what you thought, and if you have any topic in particular that you want to discuss, it's JSA or JHA or risk assessment, please let me know in the comment. At least you will help me, you will give me ideas of my future videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.